Our History's Mysteries is on Lincoln and Kennedy connections.
Background information. These connections began in the press in 1964, just about a year after Kennedy's death. Over 50 years after Kennedy's death, more people have found these connections. It is perceived just as an American folktale from other articles. But in popular culture, the connections were very widespread and have been spread through social media, but for the most part, not a part of popular culture. It has never been solved or justified. Many arguments used is that these connections are not just a coincidence.
Lincoln was elected Congress in 1846, and exactly 100 years later, Kennedy was elected into Congress in 1946. Lincoln was actually elected president in 1860, and Kennedy was elected in 1960. The two were actually both concerned about civil rights and were shot in the head, which coincidentally was on a Friday as well, and both of their wives did actually lose a child while they were living in the White House.
Now this gets weird. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy, and Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were succeeded by Southerners named Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who was succeeded by Lincoln, was born in 1808, and Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908, exactly 100 years later. Both assassins were known by their three names, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald. John Wilkes Booth was born in 1839. 100 years later, Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1939. Both assassins were Southerners.
Lincoln was shot in a theater named Ford, while Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln car made by Ford. Booth was the man who assassinated Lincoln, and he was actually assassinated before his trial, as so was Oswald, who's the man who killed Kennedy.
Here's the kicker. A week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. A week before Kennedy was shot, he was with Marilyn Monroe. See, the two names sound similar. Monroe, Maryland, Marilyn Monroe. Kennedy and Lincoln are both composed of 7 letters. Both assassins' names were composed of 15 letters. John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald.
But wait, there's more. Lincoln was actually shot in a theater, and his assassin ran to a warehouse, while Kennedy was shot from a warehouse and his assassin ran to a theater. Many theories have developed over time over the topic, such as that Kennedy was actually the reincarnated version of Lincoln, and that the government set up all these coincidences. Our personal theory is that these are all just coincidences that were made throughout history, and that people kind of just spend too much time looking into these connections that they have.